Good morning. May I please check if I'm in the right meeting? Is this the meeting of the Portfolio Committee? Honorable Chair.
Yes, Honorable Minister, you are in the right meeting. This is the Committee Secretary, Zolani Sakasa. Uche Akakangeni, he's not yet in, but the meeting started at 9:30, Honorable Minister.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm early. Okay, thank you.
Uh, Greetings, honorable members and support staff, the honorable minister I see on the platform, as well as the department leadership and those that come from the two entities appearing before the committee this morning. We also greet the South Africans who are following us on the platforms created by Parliament to ensure that there's public participation in the work we do at Parliament. The time that we have set for our meeting, but just some time. So I just want to confirm with the committee staff that we have got the necessary quorum to proceed with the meeting, so that we then start with the formalities of convening this meeting.
Yes, Chair. Yes, Chair. Good morning, Chair, and good morning to members. Chair, we have enough members to cancel the quorum we have, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, honorable members. As I said, we were right on time. This is the Portfolio Committee on Employment and Labor in the National Assembly, which is also convened in terms of the rules of the National Assembly. It is just very important to just dispense with the formalities, starting with the rules of engagement in meetings that are convened on this platform. The honorable members and all other participants on the platform were reminded that at all times we have to ensure that the mic is muted, as well as the video camera is off in the proceedings of the meeting until at the time when you are recognized to speak. In that case, you will then proceed to unmute your mic and switch on your video camera so as to assist those that are following the deliberations. But as it is understood that there may be connectivity challenges in some spaces, you will indicate to the chair for the permission to switch off the video camera so as to maximize your bandwidth and be able to proceed speaking in the meeting. It's also understood from time to time that there may be those that may lose connectivity and have to reconnect back to the meeting. Please ensure at all times as you reconnect to the meeting that your video camera is off and your mic is muted, as mics are sensitive and could therefore pick up background sounds that may distract a speaker that may be in the platform and therefore interfere with our meeting. Whilst the rules of the National Assembly provide for point of orders to be raised, members are reminded that you have to raise your hand using your gadget. In this case, when the chair is unable to see, you will then be assisted by the committee support staff to identify the hand. You will only then be identified by the chair. Once recognized, you will then proceed to unmute your mic, raise the point of order on which the chairperson could rule upon in line with the rules in that score. We are further advised, honorable members, not to raise unnecessary point of orders to a point that the meeting collapses on this platform. With those reminders, as I said, it's really the reminders that everybody else therefore speaks through the chairperson, so as to have an orderly meeting in that score. With that having been said, honorable members, and this, as we have been given the assurance that we have got the required numbers to proceed with this meeting, and therefore it's duly convened. You are now officially welcomed. As I said, I'm also officially welcoming the Minister of Employment and Labour, Honorable Meth, who is leading the delegation politically, as well as the labor, the Employment and Labour Department officials, as led by the acting DG, as well as those that are leading the entities that are appearing before the committee today, which is Nedlac and Productivity South Africa, who will then take us through presentations at an appropriate time. So please all feel welcomed to the meeting. Of course, without waste of time, for purposes of record, before we get to the guidance on the agenda, is to record any formal apologies that have been received by the committee support. May I just check that, Committee Secretary, so that we place them on record?
Good morning once more, Chair. Chairperson, I have not received any apology from the committee members. I have received an apology from the Deputy Minister Sibia. Oh yeah, sorry, I have also one from the alternate member, Honorable Denner. She is an alternate member, she's not a full-time member. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. I thought that there was also an apology from the minister that at some point she would leaving for a cabinet committee, but maybe when we give to the minister, she would then be able to place that again on record. May I just check before I get to the minister if there are apologies that are from the members that may have not reached the committee support staff, so that we're able to place those on record for either approval or disapproval of the meeting. An apology, honorable members, that may be left out that we thought should place on record. I take it then that there are no apologies in that regard. Honorable Minister, may I just check on your side if there are those that you want to place on record outside of what we've received already.
Good morning, Honorable Chairperson. Good morning to the Honorable Whip and Honorable members of the Portfolio Committee, Honorable DMs, then the ADG and the team from Dell family, and also the Portfolio Committee support personnel. Yes, Chair, I had requested my office to submit a formal apology that this Portfolio Committee that sits today almost clashes with the Cabinet Committee that starts at 10:30. Therefore, our request to be recused just before that to join it is physical. So thank you for that. I did speak with you, Chairperson. I apologize. I don't know what happened. I don't hear it being presented here. But on my side, that's all. I don't have any other apology from anyone. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, Honorable Minister. I do see that on the chat there is also an apology of the Deputy Minister who will also leave early to attend also another Cabinet Committee meeting, Deputy Minister Mgina. So with those apologies having been tabled, is there an objection in us accepting the apologies? So objection, so the apologies are then agreed to. Honorable members will then get to the agenda as it gets flighted by the committee support. This agenda is based on the notice convening this meeting, which has been also circulated duly so to members. And as I say, it should just be flighted as I give guide. Given the apologies that we would have handled, I would want us to approach the meeting in the following manner. That we usually would give the minister to do a political overview as we get to present, as we are to get presentations from the department or the entities of the department, which also presents an opportunity for the minister to also take the committee and South Africans into confidence on matters of public interest that they may be dealing with in a way that also gives assurance that their interest is taken care of. And therefore also an opportunity to give a brief outline politically on what is coming before us. And then we'll then allow the presentations to take place and then have questions later on. Now, given these apologies that are received, I want to guide the meeting that probably would take the minister to do the political overview, of course, with an understanding that we will get the actual presentations from the entities. But if there are questions on what the minister would have communicated, we'll then give space if there are members who would want to quickly reflect on those for the minister to be able to respond on those, so that when the minister would have left, we would indeed confine ourselves to the presentations that will then be presented to us, so that if there were political questions, those would have been handled by the minister on a political input. So that's how we want to guide. Of course, when we get to the presentations, as honorable members would have seen in the notice, but also that you have received the documentation, we will then take the presentations, try and manage the time. So at max, that will be like 30 minutes per entity. That's max in terms of presentation. So if you do less, well and good, but not more than that time. So that we still have the time to engage the presentations and still have the time to consider the minutes of previous meetings, so that they do have legal standing, that they were approved by the committee as true reflection of deliberations in previous meetings. All those honorable members have been circulated to yourselves, and surely you'd have had the time to go through them. So even though the presentation may focus more on salient points that are to be emphasized, but also help the public that follows the discussion to understand what we're dealing with. In the question opportunity, you'll be able to reflect on any page of the presentation, whether that would have been covered adequately or not, given that you have processed the information that came before you. That's the first guidance we want to give. But we also want to make the point that at least the meeting gets to be focused on the items that are before us. I do know that honorable members have also received an amended program. And I want to remind members that we had agreed that it's a living document, and therefore as other things come up, we'll be looking at those. The first point being that we have used the period of the oversight to also do some of the work in relation to the annual reports. Hence, the annual reports for the other entities and the department would have been dealt with, which then changes the other dates we were looking at. That's the first point. The second one relates to us in terms of the directives from Parliament, that given that members are serving in different committees, that we have to stick to the slot allocated to the committee. And that slot is a Wednesday. And initially the plan was also to go on a Thursday. So, however, that doesn't affect us now that there was also a lot of work done with regard to annual reports when we're dealing with the oversight week. So it doesn't affect the program negatively in terms of us discharging our work in that score. So that's the essence of what has been circulated. And I want to indicate to members that we've impressed on the committee support staff to start working on the oversight report. So in essence, it means the oversight report today is not before us. So we are not discussing the oversight. We'll then have all that consolidated as in one situation of labor centers. We also separated ourselves into teams. So all that will have to be consolidated and a draft report presented. However, from the office of the chair, we've impressed on them ensuring that we can have this done quicker, so that we have the report presented before the committee and that we can process it long before we get to the next oversight that we'll be doing before the end of the year, so that we don't have matters that are left behind from the part of doing our committee work. And once that draft is received, as I said, we'll also make sure that members do receive that well on time, so that you process, you make inputs, and that it gets then tabled as such. And it is at that time that we'll then be discussing the oversight report. This, of course, doesn't take out the fact that there's day-to-day work that must happen, like we have said during the oversight itself, that as the committee we do oversight on the work that gets done, but on a daily basis, the department is expected to be doing or executing that work. So I thought it's important to guide the meeting so that our meeting is indeed quite focused on the discussions. That having been said, I take it that Honorable Minister, having welcomed you earlier, you would be ready to do your political overview and therefore introduce the presentations to be done. I will take it that yourself, you will not be taking that hour of the 30-30. So I will count when we get to the presentations. But usually that 10-15 minutes max, it does help to get a sense from the political leadership that things are still in order. Over to you, Honorable Minister. Platform is yours.
Thank you so much, Honorable Chairperson. I stay far and I'm challenged now with time. Initially, I thought I would make it to first present where I stay, the State House here. So I'll try to rush through, Chairperson. My apologies as I finish. I'll request to be in the car as I listen to the members posing questions. Good morning to you and the honorable members of the committee, as I greeted them earlier on. and the Director Nedlac and Acting CEO Productivity SA, because I had treated the rest. As the Minister of Employment and Labour, I stand committed to advancing a prosperous and inclusive South Africa where every citizen has the opportunity to contribute to and benefit from our economy. Today, we present the annual reports of Nedlac and Productivity SA, reflecting on the roles of these entities. I recognize both the challenges we face and the immense potential these institutions hold in shaping our nation's future. 14 days ago, the department concluded a 3-day critical planning, aligning our strategic plan and annual performance plan with the medium-term development plan. The statement of intent of the GNU was characterized by several principles, that is transparency, accountability, integrity, and good governance. These are the principles our planning has embraced as we embark on the execution of our strategic objectives. We are seized with a mammoth task of changing the trajectory of our economy into one that resonates with the resolve of the GNU to nudge actions that will advance 3 strategic priorities: to drive inclusive growth and job creation, to reduce poverty and tackle the high cost of living, and to build a capable, ethical, and developmental state. The Strategic Plan 2025-2030 of the department has aligned with these GNU strategic priorities and principles espoused by the Statement of Intent of the GNU. It is important for our department to translate the priorities of the 7th administration into detailed plan and interventions that government will implement over the next 5 years. At the core of this is to ensure that the DEL and all its entities solidifies the resolve on dealing with the numerous challenges our country faces, in particular unemployment, economic inequality, and the need for sustainable growth, which talk directly to the mandate of the DEL. Productivity SA is entrusted with the crucial mandate of enhancing the productivity and competitiveness of our enterprises, particularly small businesses that are the lifeblood of our economy. As the late former Finance Minister Tito Mboweni once said, I quote, "We must invest in the future of our economy by enhancing productivity and ensuring that our workforce is equipped with necessary skills," close quote. May his soul rest in peace, and condolences to his family. This sentiment encapsulates our mission at Productivity SA, established with a vision of fostering a culture of productivity across various sectors. Our organization is committed to supporting businesses in their quest to become more efficient, effective, and competitive. The entity achieved 77% of their annual performance targets in the year 23-24. It is apparent that the entity is currently falling short of fully realizing their mandate. Capacity constraints have limited its ability to provide the necessary support to small businesses, which hampers our collective effort towards sustained economic growth and job creation. To address this, we are finalizing the appointment of the CEO, a step that I believe will inject fresh leadership and stability into the organization. I anticipate that under new guidance, Productivity SA will not only strengthen its internal capacities, but also play a more dynamic role in initiatives like the Temporary Employer-Employee Relief Schemes, TERS. Enhanced coordination and a revitalized strategic focus are essential for Productivity SA to fulfill its mission effectively. Turning to Nedlac, Honorable Chair, I'm heartened by its continued commitment to fostering dialogue and consensus among government, business, labor, and community. Nedlac just last month held its annual summit, which was more significant as it preceded a historic milestone, being the 30th anniversary of Nedlac's establishment following South Africa's ratification of the International Labour Organization's Convention 144 on tripartite consultation. Since its inception, Nedlac has been the cornerstone of our country's social dialogue, bringing together government, business, labor, and community sectors to shape the policies that drive our economic and social progress. As reflected on the past 3 decades, we acknowledge the vital role Nedlac has played in fostering an inclusive consultative approach to policy making that has been central to our democratic ethos. Nedlac remains a beacon of social partnership, offering invaluable cohesion in our diverse society. Its dedication to inclusive consultation ensures that a multitude of voices contribute to the shaping of legislation and policy, a cornerstone of our democratic ethos. As we navigate the complex issues of unemployment facing our country, Nedlac's role remains more crucial than ever. We must continue to champion the values of dialogue, consensus building, and mutual respect that have underpinned our progress. During 23-24 financial year, Nedlac achieved 92% of the annual performance targets, having had a significant number of bills considered at Nedlac between the financial year 2019 and 2023-2024. A total number of 25 bills was considered and are in various stages toward being passed by Parliament. This is a commendable achievement, as also confirmed by their stakeholder survey, wherein 78% of stakeholders show satisfaction, while 84% of the staff were equally satisfied. The entity achieved yet another clean audit. Both Productivity SA and Nedlac have demonstrated commendable dedication to their respective mandates, maintaining high standards of accountability as evidenced by their clean audits, yet acknowledgement of achievement must be coupled with a clear-eyed assessment of areas needing improvement. Productivity SA must surmount its capacity challenges to make a tangible impact on small business across all provinces. Nedlac's role as a platform for consensus building must be unwaveringly respected and utilized to its fullest potential. In these times of economic uncertainty and social transformation, it is imperative that we harness the strengths of these institutions to drive meaningful change. Thus embrace a renewed spirit of cooperation and purpose, leveraging the collective talents and insights of all stakeholders. Together we can forge a path toward a more equitable and prosperous South Africa, where every citizen has the opportunity to thrive. It is through such unity and determination that we will achieve the inclusive growth and employment opportunities that our nation so richly deserves. Honorable Chair and members, I now turn to other topical matters relating to DEL. Firstly, I am pleased to inform this honorable sitting that the online services of the UIF have been restored to full operation with effect from 11 October. Mid-August 2024, the platforms were taken offline following a dispute by a former service provider that interdicted the UIF and the newly appointed service provider, resulting to enormous disruption to online services. We had to consider the impact of the disruptions and prioritize resolving the matter soon enough. I'm pleased, therefore, that the matter got settled among all the parties involved and the UIF online systems are back to normal. Secondly, during the month of May 2024, we experienced the George and Barito construction industry-related tragedies. In both instances, workers lost their lives on those construction sites. During the same month, the OHS Inspectorate conducted national high-impact business inspections in the construction sector to demonstrate our commitment towards upholding of OHS standards nationwide. The stats are provided. I won't go through that in the interest of time. We have, however, realized that the enforcement of compliance should be two-way by the regulator and those regulated. In this accord, we have been engaging industry players, labor, and other social partners on alternative ways to bolster compliance, especially in the construction sector. The Honorable Chair, I am pleased to announce that today, in partnership with our partners, we have signed an occupational health and safety accord, a prevention accord, with an attempt to formally and symbolically deal with the poor compliance with Occupational Health and Safety Act. We will safeguard the accord to ensure that we save lives and protect workers from injuries, fatalities, and diseases. And we are saying it's a route to zero injuries, diseases, and injuries in our workplaces. Thirdly, honorable members, it is our resolve to deal with various governance-related matters, including the compensation fund. To this extent, we have established a dedicated focus through a task team whose mandate to address all material issues that have been raised by the Auditor General. It is our singular focus and resolve to eradicate all material irregularities in the entities under our auspices. Furthermore, we are hard at work developing a better working organizational model for the department and the two funds. A roadmap that will further enhance the service delivered, in particular of the two funds, underpinned by cutting-edge technology, is under development. Further work has been commissioned to focus on the optimization of the investment performance of the two funds. In closing, honorable members, in the next 5 years, I have set to focus the department on 7 critical priority areas, which are: 1, strengthen regulatory capabilities of the department. As we consider labor law reforms, we must carefully assess how these legislative changes will influence our strategic and operational planning over the next 5 years. Many change drivers, including technology, demographics, climate change, and geopolitics, are putting enormous pressure on us to develop agile policies and regulatory frameworks suited to the future of work that we have yet to fully experience. These reforms will undoubtedly reshape our approach to protecting workers' rights and regulating employment conditions, significantly impacting to the department's capacity to enforce compliance and address labor market challenges. Our discussions on this topic are vital to ensuring the department remains adaptable and responsive to the needs of South Africans. Coordination of employment intervention within government through collaborations, partnerships, and cooperations is our second priority. Coordination and finding synergies on interdependent roles with sister departments and entities, presidential youth employment initiatives, improve performance of labor activation program as a vehicle to activate employment services of South Africa to be regulated for all employers to utilize and assist with the coordination of the employment mandate. Labor law reforms must be prioritized and responsive to economic imperatives, benefiting both employees and employers. The National Labor Migration Policy, the National Employment Policy, the Employment Services Amendment Bill. Priority number 3, good corporate governance, improvement of Auditor Generals of South Africa and internal audit outcomes, efficient functioning of statutory bodies and statutory committees, namely boards, government bodies of entities, risk committees, and audit committees. Zero tolerance on corruption, maladministration, and poor performance. Introduce the Ministerial Excellence Awards to encourage high performance by recognizing good performers to boost the morale of the staff. Priority 4, improve service delivery, unbundling of UIF and CF, reconfiguration of the Department of Labor into Department of Employment and Labor, improve the functioning and impact of temporary employer-employee relief schemes, expand the work of business turnaround and recovery to save more jobs in the country, extend, resuscitate the ex-mine workers outreach with other government departments and entities. Priority number 5, strengthen the institutional capacity of the department, health and wellness of DEL family officials, injection of 20,000 labor inspector interns into the inspectorate to strengthen capacity, expand the reach and business coverage of supported employment enterprises within the public service. The second last priority, number 6, massify the marketing of the department services and programs. Operation Yazini, Know Your Ministry, is what we are launching. DEL Fridays, meant to magnify the noise we are making about the good work DEL and its entities are doing and empower our communities. And lastly, number 7, to advance the new employment mandate of the department, we are going to focus more on the establishment of PPPs with government, business, labor, international agencies, and civil society. Honorable members, I provide a summary hearing and the entities will present on the detailed annual reports of both Nedlac and Productivity SA. I thank you, Honorable Chair.
Thank you, Honorable the Minister. Honorable members, as I indicated, that will give an opportunity in case that quick questions or reflections that members would want to make before we get to the presentation, so that if the Minister would be able to respond to those. I did get, Honorable Minister, that from here you'll be responding whilst you are in the car in case there is there are questions. So we've noted that, and that it would mean we may not see you on the video in that score. So we'll keep that in mind. So, honorable members, I'll also then be assisted by the committee support in case I don't see the hands on my side. But I do see there is Honorable Mkonto, unless I've jumped a name, but that's the one I see now. I will then give you, Honorable Mkonto, an opportunity.
Thanks, Chair.
Honorable Mkonto,
Thanks, Chair, for the opportunity. Good morning to you, honorable members and colleagues. Good morning to the minister and her team. Chair, what I want, I apologize. I won't open my video. I'm in a very compromised environment. Chair, I want to thank thank and welcome the presentation from the minister, but there are burning issues, Chair, that the minister must assist us with. First of all is the Nedlac Summit of 2023. There are things that were raised there. Number one is the issue of disaster management. We all know that if disaster is not managed properly, it can lead to job shedding, shedding of job opportunities. So I would love the department to go back to the resolutions or presentations of the 2023 Nedlac Summit and check what the social partner that is dealing with a disaster presented, because I can see our country is now experiencing one disaster after another because of the climate change. The second one, Chair, is the role of Nedlac in the jobs that are being lost in the mining sector. There are a lot of jobs that are being lost in the mining sector, and there are allegations that they want to end the permanent contracts and go into a temporary contract. I think that has to be checked. That is if that is under the jurisdiction of Nedlac. The last one, Chair, the minister talked about zero tolerance to corruption and underperformance. We agree with her, but then, Chair, we have a thorn in our flesh, and that is the registrar of unions. There is allegations of serious corruption that is going on in that office. Can the minister zoom in? Labor unions are complaining every day. Can the minister zoom in and check what is that office busy with? And is there anything that the committee can do, Chair? Now, this one is directed to you, to make sure that the registrar of unions is accountable. Because from my observation, what I see now, the registrar of unions is law unto himself. He doesn't have a board that he account to. He doesn't account to members of parliament. He accounts only to the minister. But is that happening? Is the minister checking what is happening in that office? Labor unions are complaining, Chair, and there is a lot of corruption that is going on there. Allegations of a lot of corruption that is going on there. Thanks very much, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Mkonto. As I would be giving to the minister to respond, I want to check if there are members who want to speak. I don't want us to have
It's Michael Bagrat.
one, because then we may be triggered by what another member would have raised. So I want to identify the members. I see Honorable Mbele. His hand is up on the platform. I take it that Honorable Begram, you are saying you wanted to ask the question quickly.
Correct.
Okay.
Can I go ahead?
No,
Chair?
I will ask Honorable Mbele's hand was up
Okay,
earlier
thanks. No problem.
that she speaks, and then you will then follow.
Okay, thank you very much, Chair. I'm sorry, it's only that I was struggling here to use this gadget in terms of raising my hand. So that is why it just appeared later. No, Chair, actually, I was also going, unfortunately, or fortunately, the latter speaker has just covered me on the issues, and especially on the issue of corruption. Maybe in terms of the systems, our systems that we put in, maybe I think the Minister, thank you very much, Minister, for the presentation. But I would also want to see in a way that we also talk about the issues of the systems that we are going to put, and also that are going to protect the issues of possible corruption. And also the strategy maybe that we are going to use. There should be an emphasis maybe in your presentation in terms of making sure there's a creation of employment, and also to address the issues that are in the, especially in the rural areas, Minister. It is very important that you are very strong on that one, because as far as I'm concerned, in terms of our department, and especially on the area of UIF, where we've got a lot of money that is sitting there, that is very exposed in terms of corruption. Maybe if we can just come up with a plan to make sure that that money is used, if it's going to be used, or maybe the reserves, whatever, I don't know, but it's very important that it also assists the employment in the rural areas. We need to be starting to really shift. And also in terms of the services, Minister, I think also you should put it that one very strong, to say the services, let us also focus in the rural areas where we can make sure infrastructures, whether it's the temporal infrastructure that is going to assist our rural areas, and also our budget, it must be accounted for in terms of the rural areas. So those were the issues that I wanted to make sure. And the protection of the employees is very important, and especially after, it's a pity that we couldn't talk about the our oversight. But with the experience that we had, and with the experience that our
Yes, Honorable Mbele.
Oh, sorry.
We did say that we'll deal with the report of the oversight when it is presented before the meeting. So we'll still have the opportunity.
Okay.
Everything we say at least can go properly on record.
All right.
Yes.
Okay, no, I think, thank you, Chairperson. Yeah, but I was just highlighting it. But that is what I wanted to say, that at least in terms of the protection of the workers, we need to be very strong. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Mbele. Honorable Begram, so that we also at the end give the Minister an opportunity to respond before she gets into this other meeting. Honorable Begram, can you hear me?
Thank you. I
can.
can
Proceed.
Thank you ever so much, Honorable Chair. I really appreciate it, Minister, and thank you for the overview, the political overview. I have just two issues. The first one, let me just get it out the way quickly, and that is the UIF is still a complete disaster. They're still offline from what I understand. There are over 300,000 people desperately trying to get something done. I know you've put in an acting commissioner, but we need urgent action there. It's become an absolute nightmare, and I just thought, let me just put this down so that you are fully aware that there's a nightmare out there. It's disaster, it's bloodshed in the streets. The second thing is probably just as important, but more of a macro issue, and that is, you might have taken note that the president in his last address specifically said that the deregulation in the labour market, in particular in small business, needs to be explored. We need to explore what laws are standing in the way of job creation. And we need to also look at, in the past, when the Honourable late Tito Mboweni was the Minister of Employment and Labour, one thing that he said was that we need to consider the uncoupling of small business to the bargaining councils, the uncoupling of the small business. He was before his time, and he got berated for that by the trade union movement, but it looks like today we need to revisit that, because the president has actually called for the deregulation. And can you outline to us what is being done about this? So thank you for the opportunity, Honourable Chair. Thank you.
Honourable Beggar. In the absence of alliance, the Honourable Minister, you can quickly respond. I hope you can still hear.
Yes, Chairperson, but there was some small interruption, but I think I got the honourable member was the last one to speak. Thank you for those comments. We note the issues raised, in particular on the previous summit resolutions. We shall make sure that we look at that and report back to the committee. On the issue of the loss of jobs at the mining sector, I think when the acting DG makes some input after the presentations by both Nedlac and Platinum SA, he will also share with the committee what we have done to increase the money on TERS, so that actually we look at those issues in terms of supporting businesses that are at a brink of collapse or going down, because we are about ensuring that we help where we can help, subject to availability of resources. And on the issue of underperformance and tolerance or zero tolerance on corruption, the issue of the register of unions is noted, Honourable Chairperson. Coming to the issue of services in the rural areas, issues of infrastructure, we are trying our best. That's why we have engaged now in the same spirit of the Operation Yazini. We take services on wheels to the people. We go to the deepest rural areas, even pay UIF on site. Chair, we went across the province. I think now we've been already to about 5 provinces in the country. So that's the work we are trying to do. And also we are looking at the availability of our services beyond the labor centers to our visiting points and also the satellite offices. We shall enforce the work that we are doing there to ensure that people have access to our services. On the issue of protection of employers, it is for that reason why we've been having these police inspections, and we appreciate the support we are getting and cooperation from other sister departments in order for us to go to these places. And it is for that reason that we are also reinforcing our capacity by this planned employment of intents to increase the number, and also looking at the ICT, how best we can be able not to depend on fiscal visits, but have a system that can ensure that all the employers comply to protect the workers' rights. On the corruption of UIF, we are noting that we are trying to do all in our power to nip that on the bud, the issue of corruption. But we also request the support of the portfolio committee members if there are any issues that need to be brought to our attention so that we can act. And lastly, on the issue of the deregulation of the small businesses, it is our interest that our compliance don't kill the businesses, and for that reason, we are having a serious attention that we want to pay through our policy and legislation reforms of ensuring that there is a support that is provided, and there's also some exemption that is given for a particular time to small businesses, because we have since understood as they've spoken with us, was in the process of engaging our people through this Yazini project to even engage the businesses, and they are complaining about the bureaucracy, red tape, and the cost of compliance, which we want to see how we can then use in productivity as a still support them on top of the legislative reform that we want to engage on. So, Chair, I hope I've tried to cover, but if there's anything that I'm leaving out, I'll request your indulgence, Chair, that the ADG, when time comes, covers those areas you just indicated. There's an area that I've left out. Thank you so much, Chair. I hope I'm still audible as I'm on the road.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. You were indeed audible. We thank you for the responses and, of course, the confidence that you still give, that the matters are getting the necessary attention. And I think from the committee, we'll continue to give that support to ensure that they are able to do your work. So we do understand you are now getting to the other side of work, which is the execution side. We will then bring the committee back to the presentations. Like I said, ADG, let's get your team lined up, that the maximum is 30 per presentation. We take both presentations, and then from there get members to engage the presentations in that way, as guided earlier. ADG.
Thank you very much, Chair. Chair, if I may beg your indulgence, I have a bit of an unstable network, and therefore I would request that I address the committee via audio only, if you don't mind, Chair. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ADG. You can proceed.
Thank you, Chair. Honorable Minister of Employment and Labor, Nomakosazana Meth, Honorable Deputy Minister of Employment and Labor, Phumzile Mgcina, Honorable Chair of the Portfolio Committee, Mr. Boyce Maneli, Honorable members of the Portfolio Committee, advisors to the Minister, administrative support staff, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. We appear in front of the committee today to table the annual reports of the two entities of the department, namely Productivity SA and Nedlac for the 2023-24 fiscal year. So Productivity SA, Chair, has made some notable strides in promoting enterprise productivity and competitiveness through its business turnaround and recovery, together also with competitiveness improvement services programs. These initiatives, Chair, have supported numerous enterprises. They've trained entrepreneurs and workers and contributed to job preservation and creation. However, capacity constraints, both financial and human, have rather hindered the organization from fully meeting its mandate, particularly in providing adequate support to small businesses across all provinces. The imminent appointment of the new CEO, as mentioned by the minister earlier, is expected to bring much needed stability and should enhance the organization's effectiveness. Additionally, Chair, there is a need for better coordination to enable Productivity SA to play a much more significant role with even better impact going forward. While the entity has maintained an unqualified audit, addressing its resource limitations is crucial for expanding its nationwide impact. Coming to Nedlac, Chair, Nedlac has had a very successful year, achieving the majority of its key components targets, or key performance targets rather, and receiving positive feedback from stakeholders and staff. It continues to serve as a vital platform for social, contributing to policy development and fostering cohesion amongst government, business, labor, and community sectors. Amendments to the Nedlac Constitution and the progress of the new Nedlac Bill signify important advancements in strengthening its role. As a department responsible for Nedlac, we, however, do want to continue encouraging utilization of these well-established consultative processes where temptation might suggest otherwise. Adherence to Nedlac's consultation mechanisms to uphold the principles of inclusive and transparent policymaking is of critical importance. In summary, Chair, both entities have demonstrated commitment to their mandates and have maintained high standards of accountability. Moving forward, addressing the identified challenges will be key to enhancing their contributions to our national objectives of economic growth, employment creation, and social cohesion. I now, Chair, would like to invite Ms. Amelia Naidu, the acting CEO of Productivity SA, and followed by Ms. Lisa Seftel, the Director of Nedlac, to take us through the detailed presentations in that order, Chair. Thank you very much. Over to you, Ms. Naidu.
Good morning, Honorable Minister, Honorable Chairperson, as well as honorable members of the committee, our acting Deputy Director General, as well as the other members that are sitting here on this committee session. I will put my video off. I am at a conference at the moment, but I will be presenting, and thank you for the opportunity. Chairperson, I'm going to be sharing from my side. So if you can please give me an indication once you do see it. Okay, do you all see my presentation?
Okay, sir.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. I'm going to go through very briefly because we have submitted the presentation on the annual report itself and the performance of the organization. As the Honorable Minister has mentioned, Productivity SA has a mandate and has government, an entity of government. We have this mandate to promote employment growth and productivity, thereby contributing to South Africa's socio-economic development and competitiveness. I've had the benefit, of course, to present productivity as a whole in the introductory meeting to the Portfolio Committee. So I'm not going to go into detail about what we cover within the initial of the annual report, but to give an indication, our staff establishment and the vacancy rate as of the end of the financial year. We report directly to the entity as an entity to the Department of Employment and Labor, and this is our structure. So I'm going to go into what our focus areas are. Within our functions as Productivity SA, we have to promote a culture of productivity in the workplace, facilitate and evaluate productivity improvement and competitiveness in the workplace, support initiatives aimed at preventing job losses, and then measure and evaluate productivity and competitiveness in the workplace and in all overall the economy, maintain a database of productivity and competitiveness systems and publicize the same, undertake productivity-related research. So this is done through our programs, which are called the Enterprise Development and Support Programs, one being the Competitiveness Improvement Services. And you will see through the annual report that you would have received, you will see the case studies that relate to the Competitiveness Enhancement or Competitiveness Improvement Services program, which is to enhance the capacities of SMEs and cooperatives. This program looks at job retention as well as job creation. It's ultimately the creation of employment and decent work. The Business Turnaround and Recovery is the second program, which is funded by the UIF itself. Here you would also see throughout the annual report, you'll see a number of case studies where it gives you an indication of the interventions that we've had underway. This program aims to save jobs and create conditions conducive for job retention and ultimately good job creation. And then the third program is Research, Innovation and Statistics. We actually publicize statistics, which is the productivity statistics for the year, as well as the IMD competitiveness rating. And we also publicize the sector studies that may be undertaken during the period. Productivity SA's outcome-oriented goals is to improve productivity for sustained inclusive economic growth and competitiveness, to promote full and productive employment and decent work, contribute to wealth creation and income growth, and improve workplace collaboration and dialogue. I'm giving an indication of all of this that is encompassed in our annual report, but just highlighting our role as an entity. The performance of the organization dropped from the previous financial year to 2023-24. So it's just giving you an indication over the period. As we are well aware, during COVID, this is 2020, so we dropped to 67%, then moved to 75%, to 90% in 2022-2023, where we were supported with other initiatives, and then further actually dropped to 77% as indicated by the Honourable Minister. The indication of the KPIs themselves, so this is our performance information, where we did not achieve our targets. We didn't achieve 2 of our targets within our administration, as well as 1 target, which was within research, innovation, and statistics. So that's why we achieved a 77% overall. The other programs, which is our enterprise development programs, where we end up supporting the enterprises, the entities themselves through competitiveness improvement services and business turnaround recovery, we have achieved 100%. From a human resource side of it, we've achieved 100%, and corporate relations, which is the awareness. But I move into the next slide that gives you a breakdown of the strategic objectives and the non-achievement there. As I mentioned, through our enterprise support programs being our key components of the entity to deliver on the services. This is on a national basis, and I've mentioned about the case studies that you will see in the annual report. The competitiveness improvement services, which is actually CIS program to support SMMEs, achieved 100%. So for the APP itself, we supported 1,617 SMMEs over the period. We capacitated 3,016 entrepreneurs, workers, and managers. And we trained 542 champions. So you will see there's a high achievement there. We did try, of course, from service delivery point to ensure that we are impacting enterprises on the ground. And we also prioritize youth, people with disabilities, as well as women entrepreneurs. So you will see the figures here. It's 40% youth trained, 48% women trained, 86% Black entrepreneurs, workers, and managers that were actually trained. You also have an indication over the period since 2020, how many enterprises we supported, which is 5,740, employing 14,000 employees. In that program, we support both informal as well as formal. The second program being the Business Turnaround and Recovery. Now, this is a program that is funded by the Unemployment Fund. This is based on an agreement, unlike the previous one, which is the CIS is based on the DEL allocations and the support that we give to SMMEs. The Business Turnaround and Recovery, or BTNR program, is there to prevent job losses, but it is a project-based intervention. So we sign an agreement with the UIF for a 3-year period. Our agreement was signed off in 2020, and then we started implementation of the program, but we are very reliant, obviously, on those funds to be able to implement. So when the funds are delayed, that's a factor that actually affects us for the implementation and delays our implementation over the period. For 2023-2024, we supported 71 enterprises, and we saved 5,390 jobs, as well as trained 934 Future Forum members. Again, here we also have one of our successes, which is where we partnered with SEE, where we're supporting their factories within the different provinces as well. And you get an indication that 667 employees, of which of the total number of 5,390 actually have people with disabilities themselves. And 1,569 are youth employed as well. Since 2020, we managed to support 257 companies through our business turnaround recovery program, retaining 21,102 jobs and capacitating 2,601 Future Forum members. So you get an indication of what we are able to do as an entity and meet our mandate, of course, and when we're looking at sustainability of enterprises. In the annual report, you'll also see some of our key strategic projects, which we've presented before as well to the committee, as well as to the department. Our African Kaizen initiative, where we ended up submitting as well a productivity entity or entity that was on our productivity program to participate in the African Kaizen Awards. We were not finalists, but we're hoping in the next years we are going to be so. But we do play a role in ensuring that we're bringing Kaizen to Africa, but making it into our South African version and creating a center of excellence through Productivity SA and be able to implement solutions that are looking at best practices for our country. The quality and productivity improvements, also you will see a case study that related to support that we ended up doing over last financial year. We ended up supporting 20 enterprises through JICA, which is the Japanese International Cooperation Agency, and the DTIC on Kaizen initiatives. And you will see impact as well within the case studies of the number of jobs that were created, as well as the efficiency that we managed to improve on. The last project is the ILO, Productivity Ecosystem for Decent Work. You'll also see right at the end, there's a write-up about the project itself. I actually chair the project advisory committee, and we are implementing and for enterprise level as well, the support through this program, which the ILO is funding with the Swiss, so the SECO itself. So those are some of also the highlights we wanted to raise. But our challenges itself, and this is where we speak about financial sustainability, is key to what affected even our performance overall. So Productivity SA faces a huge challenge in relation to the post-retirement medical aid, which is something that we've had as an entity for the few years or for a longer period now. And we do have a court case as well that we're trying to take it up. There's legal outcomes that have been escalated. But currently, this commitment from our side is 5.3 million rand on an annual basis, because there are 35 pensioners that we are liable to pay for their medical aid. At this moment, the court has instructed us that we would have to pay for it, but there is a legal case that's underway as well. This affects our financial sustainability. Further to that is the reduction in the grant allocation, impacting our financial sustainability. Of course, this ended up leading to Productivity SA requesting a bailout in early last year or early the financial year, and which had to assist us by 8 million rand to ensure that we finish off at a certain point. Due to these financial constraints, as well as the moratorium in place, we had to suspend recruitment, which is affecting our performance overall, and you would see that actually happening currently. The non-performance areas, or the 3 KPIs that we didn't achieve, relate to the research, innovation, and statistics, which hasn't been able to achieve their target for the last 3 consecutive years due to the capacity constraints. One of the interventions that we're doing right now is to place the research, innovation, and statistics executive to ensure that this program is looked at and there's a strategy that is created. So that is our priority while we actually moving through the research agenda for this financial year. Second to that is the 30-day payments. So due to our financial situation of the cash shortages, we were not able to pay the SMMEs within the 30-day payment term, which affected us especially at the end of financial year. And then lastly, one of the indicators that we didn't achieve was also the elimination of fruitless and wasteful expenditure. We had to reduce it by 10% due to one of the actual programs, which is called ZAP, being implemented. This was regarded as fruitless and wasteful because we didn't end up moving forward with the program. The license of the contract has since been cancelled. I am here today, well, I've given you all an indication of all of the KPIs themselves, so I'm not going to go into all of these. So in the presentation, it has every KPI, but I've raised on the key areas being the enterprise programs. So I'm joined today with our CFO, who's going to take us through the financials, Bushle Sudumane, and she's going to speak through also the audit findings. Okay, I'm going to hand over to you, Bushle.
Good morning to all the honorable members and the colleagues. I am going to be very brief in highlighting some of the financial performance areas, particularly speaking to the performance of the end of the financial year in March. Productivity SA, as the acting CEO mentioned, was faced with a very significant financial challenge last financial year that resulted into the request of financial assistance from their department. With that request, it actually reduced our performance deficit to 2.6 million rand, whereby we had our salary bill of 84 million rand. As you can see, it's way above the allocation for the DEL grant. This is a strategy that's been implemented by the entity now on holding back on filling recruitment, and hence such a high vacancy rate, due to the fact that we aren't able to afford the compensation of employees that's currently in the structure. The gap between our department grant and that of our planned expenditure is filled through multiple revenue generation initiatives that the entity undertakes, which generated 34.2 million in the last financial year, which is just short of the budget of 41 million. And that is key relating to consulting income, where the entity goes out and provides services that we receive payment from third parties. The second part relating to the retention of some revenue from the UIF project that the acting CEO spoke about. Then the third leg coming from the DTIC project in our workplace challenge program. Next slide, please. From an audit, next slide to the audit matrix, please. From an audit perspective, we did achieve our APP target of reduction of audit findings. However, we did have about 9 audit findings that remained unresolved in the audit report, of which 6 of those have now been resolved. Our main areas were within the human resource management, where we had some challenges with business continuity, where we couldn't uncover some compliance documents there. And we also had challenges in our payroll Sage system when it related to some transactions which could not be verified. We also have audit findings relating to our supply chain management area, one being more of operational housekeeping, which have now been closed off in this Q2, and the other relating to our RFQs, which have also been closed off. So we're sitting now with dealing with a challenge relating to HRM, and of course the 30-day payment term, which impacted our APP, but also was an audit finding raised by the auditors, as it is a PFMA compliance to pay SMMEs within 30 days, and the entity was challenged towards the end of the financial year due to the financial constraints. Thank you, Chair. I will end my section there. Thank you.
Thank you very much to the CFO. Just to wrap up, just not moving. Our biggest challenges as an entity, and I know this has been presented also to the portfolio committee, but it comes out strongly as well in our annual report, is our organizational stability. So that's structural as well as financial, ultimately. Something that has raised as well by the entity being DEL, as well as the other entities, is that the brand awareness and visibility, the relevance of our offerings, and this is something we're working towards as well with our partners. Governance and controls, we put a number of governance and controls measures in place now after the audit findings, and then we also have an issue with leveraging of technology. When I say this is an issue, due to the fact of, I think it all comes back to also financial aspect of it. there's so much more that Productivity SA can do. Productivity plays a huge role in ensuring there is economic growth, which leads to creation of decent work. So there are a number of initiatives that we have underway, being one of the main things, a business turnaround financial sustainability strategy, where we are focusing on a revenue generation strategy that will help us sustain the entity itself. At the moment, as it stands, we're even sitting at a vacancy rate of 33%, which actually means that our APP overall has even dropped the achievement in the end of Q2. So we do know that finances play a role, but resources overall play a role in us achieving what we need to achieve as an entity, but also meeting this mandate. So we have a number of aspects that we have underway that forms part of the strategy. But ultimately, we are committed, of course, to continue the support through our enterprise development and support programs and focusing on the support for SMMEs. We would like to, of course, increase the number of enterprises we are supporting, and we're doing that through strategic partnerships. But further to that, we would like to look at other avenues as well. And we, of course, looking at productivity-driven agenda holistically across all sectors, and resolving and promoting productivity and accountability, which remains our focus. And we call upon government and social partners to join us on this journey. We, of course, said that we want to be able to also contribute to the development of comprehensive policy mix and strategies, and that's also through our research, innovation, and statistics, and then implementing the business turnaround and financial sustainability strategy, which is underway as of April this year. So thank you very much, Chair. I'm going to stop there.
Can then switch off to Nedlac.
Good morning, Honourable Chair. Good morning, members. Can I say all protocol observed? I'm here together with my colleagues from Nedlac, and I'll be going through part of the presentation, and then the CFO will be dealing with the financial issues. If I can, I hope the presentation is visible, Honourable Chair.
Yep.
Thanks a lot. Again, just as my colleague Ms. Naidu said, I'm sure the contents is not new to you, because we have come and presented as part of the induction and introduction of Nedlac to the committee. So I hope I will not be taking up all the 30 minutes. And also, a number of you were able to attend the annual summit, where we also presented on our performance in the 23-24 financial year. This slide says two things, that 2024 was a bit of an unusual year. There was ongoing work that we did around information sharing, dialogues, consideration of policies and bills, and engaging with government budget and MTBPS. But also there were some differences because we were preparing for the transition to the 7th administration. We were involved in a project to celebrate, reflect on the 30 years of democracy and plan for the future. And there were some bits of legislation that didn't come to Nedlac because there was a desire by the 6th administration to ensure that a significant number of bills in that period made it to Parliament and was subsequently promulgated. I think the acting DG made reference to this. There has been some unhappiness by the social partners that the Nedlac step has been missed. In particular, Honourable Chair, around the Tobacco and Electronic Products Bill, which has significant implications for businesses and jobs, even though it's a health bill. And there has been numerous calls that to the minister responsible and also to the previous portfolio committee that bill should return to Nedlac, it is even possible that there will be litigation if the bill is not properly considered. In terms of performance and achievements, I think this has already been referred to by the acting DG and also by the minister. But I will go into some of the detail. So this slide is just a summary of the key issues that were raised by the minister and the overall conveners who lead from the different constituencies at Nedlac. I'm not going to read them because I think this is a time, if you listen to what they're saying about the importance of social dialogue, and I think at this point we should be honoring Tito Mboweni, who sadly passed away last week, because it was really him, together with the leadership of business and labor and community at the time, that initiated Nedlac and made sure that it happened, and made sure that it happened in the way that it did, so that social dialogue is so entrenched in our society today. So then to move to the indicators, here you can see our 4 programs: administration, operations, capacity building, and the Presidential Climate Commission, which is being hosted under Nedlac. And there was only one target which wasn't met under administration, which really related to the fact that we were unable, for a number of reasons, to complete all our supply chain processes within 2 months. Then on the satisfaction survey, you can see here that there is significant satisfaction by our staff. So what do we, by our staff and by stakeholders who are our social partners. So what do we do with the survey? We don't do a sample. We actually ask everybody who participates in one or other of our Nedlac committees. We ask them what they think, how effective the committees run, how effectively we build capacity, how good our governance is, but most importantly, how good our processes are. Are we raising the correct issues? Are we appropriately addressing the correct issues in Nedlac? Now to our performance report, and this is just a picture from our annual summit where we were celebrating even though it's the 29th summit, it's our 30th year. And we felt it was appropriate to celebrate the 30th year in the 30th year of democracy. And there's a lot of detail on these slides. It's all contained in the annual report. So I will really be going through them quickly to show you the breadth of issues which social partners discuss at Nedlac. One of the ongoing issues has been unclaimed assets. There's over 53 billion rand of money from mine workers, a lot, whose families never claimed the benefits when they passed away. And there is ongoing discussion how fairly to address these unclaimed assets. Now, again, this National State Enterprise Bill, the former minister, Pravin Gordhan, and also passed, brought the bill for a dialogue session, but he was in a hurry to take it to Parliament. In fact, it wasn't considered in Parliament. And I see last week that it has been brought back to Parliament. And we are busy discussing with the social partners whether or not, because it didn't happen in the 6th administration, whether it shouldn't come back for engagement at Nedlac. And then you can also see on the list of issues that we considered is that there's increasing synergies between the work that the TRC Chamber does and the work that's being done around climate change, where the PCC I have also been seized with issues of electric vehicles, as well as what we call a socially owned renewable energy model, which really, and I was listening to Honorable Member Mbele, asking about rural areas. It's really how there can be community ownership of renewable energy. So then we also have a committee called Tesalico, which last year was very active, particularly around AGOA, where social partners were very concerned that the AGOA commitments continue, which is where we can export goods to America in a tariff-free environment. We also have work streams, a work stream on freight and public transport. And I think, members are aware that there's been a lot of progress or on PROSA, at least their trains are running, and there has been ongoing progress around some of the freight challenges which are engaged upon at Nedlac. We've also done a lot of work with an energy work stream. Last year, the big issue was electricity pricing. I see the Minister of Electricity has also indicated that this is something he wants to revisit because electricity is unaffordable, and I'm sure it will come back. He has made a commitment that it would come back to Nedlac as well. And then at an extra level, this is really at the level of ministers and so on, we have had discussions with Minister Gorongwana around the government budget. On the labour market issues, I think the Minister also referred to the number of policy issues that are coming from the department, which we're engaged upon. Together with Proudly SA, we're also looking at the productivity ecosystems. And then the big issue has been the Labour Law Reform Task Team, which here I just set out some of the areas that have been considered. They are mostly all considered, and including in that consideration has been the issue raised by Honourable Member Bagram about whether the labour law environment is unfriendly and requires deregulation for SMMEs, and how do we improve that dispensation while continuing the commitment to worker rights and decent work. Sorry, just there has been one ongoing Section 77 matter, which is where a union would like to embark upon a protected action if the issue cannot be resolved at Nedlac. I would want to indicate to the honourable members here that we are now facing 3 new Section 77 matters. The one is from AMCU, and it relates to the issue raised by Honourable Member Mkonto around job losses in the mining sector, and together with the PCC, because many of the job losses are linked to the issues of the changing nature of our energy sector as a result of climate change, that we will hopefully be looking, at a process to be able to address that and alleviate or avert socioeconomic protest there. And the other 2 Section 79 applications are from the Western Cape COSATU and from Solidarity. Western Cape COSATU on the cutting of posts of teachers, and Solidarity on the Bella Act. In respect of, we have a development chamber, and we also here have done work on schools and rural development, and also engaged on a number of bills, the National Water Resource Infrastructure Agency bill, which was passed and is already promulgated. And then, as you can see, we have a number of dialogue sessions where we engage on issues, and this is where we took up the issue raised also by Honourable Mkonto around disaster management. A number of recommendations were made there around both early warning with the South African Weather Bureau, as well as how to better coordinate relief. And that is an ongoing work. The PCC is also involved because of the link to flooding and climate change and rising temperatures. And the presidency is coordinating that. And I'm sure at the appropriate time, they'll bring it back to Nedlac. The key issue that I think has been raised also in the 30-year planning document is that because disasters are so common now, that we have to have a multi-party response. It's not only government's responsibility, we all need to play our role. I think, if we think of the snow that fell, and many people drove to the Drakensberg, drove to Van Rieden's Pass without knowing that there was such a threat. And it is beholden on all of us through all our networks to become much more aware of potential disasters. And things not to happen like what happens in America with so much false information about such disasters. So it's a very important issue that Honourable Member Mkonto has raised. Then we are also looking at human resources and skills development, and we did look last year at a number of issues around water, which is an emerging crisis in South Africa. We have another emerging issue, which we've been seized with for about 18 months, is the cost of living. A number of issues we're looking at to mitigate the high cost and reduce costs. And then, Honorable Bagram raised the issue of the challenges in the UI. And there has been a task team which has been seized with this to try and ensure effective oversight, closing out coverteurs and WABU, addressing the challenges. And we heard the Minister and the acting DG say that they're increasing the money for CCMATers, but it needs to run more effectively. Productivity SA also referred to this program. And then what was called modernization, and now the department is embarking on reconfiguration. So annually we produce a parliamentary tracker, and it is attached to our annual performance report. It's not attached to our annual report, and maybe that is something we should be doing in future years. And where we look at how many of the bills that have progressed through Nedlac come to Parliament. Previously, there was a problem, but as you can see, this has improved significantly. And we also look at whether the issues that have been raised by the social partners are considered by Parliament. This is not a bad report, but I think that, Honourable Chair, there is a place for improvement and recognition of social partners' inputs in the parliamentary process. Then there is the Presidential Climate Commission. On the left-hand side, they are responsible for policy and scientific recommendations to have science that can inform policy. They did a lot of work on energy planning in preparation for the publication of the Integrated Resource Plan. They have also done a review of the JET IP, coordinating stakeholder inputs. They have done a report on the state of climate research. They did a lot of work in a site visit on what happened at Komati around the closing of Komati Power Station and made a number of recommendations, and then are currently have been seized and continue to seize with understanding South Africa's climate landscape and how to support mobilization of funds for the just transition. On the stakeholder consultations, they do a number of different kinds of consultations, both at a stakeholder level, colloquiums and dialogues and so on, as well as at a community-based level, especially in Mpumalanga. Then we also have a program for community capacity building, and I've just listed here the kinds of activities that we do to support social partners so that the playing field is leveled when they participate in Nedlac. And then, as was indicated earlier on by the Minister, we have a revised constitution that was approved in the financial year, as well as a bill. The bill, Honourable Chair, is with the State's Law Advisors. We hope that that process will soon be concluded so that it can go to Cabinet and then to come to you in Parliament. And again, I remember that the late Minister Mboweni, the Nedlac Act was one of the first acts passed by the Democratic Parliament, and maybe this revised Nedlac bill will be one of the first considered and passed by the 7th administration. And then, as Honourable Member Mkonto referred to, yes, our annual summit last year was on this matter, and as I indicated earlier on, these issues of disaster preparedness are being followed up. On corporate services, we did some more work in our building to have a disability ramp and solar power. We must model what we say in society, and we also have put a lot of effort into human resources and training. I'll ask now the CFO, Farhan Samsudin, to talk about the finances and audit outcomes.
Thank you, Lisa. To you, Honourable Chairperson, and good morning, Honourable Chairperson and Honourable members. In terms of the audit opinion, as mentioned by the Minister earlier in her early remarks, Nedlac was proud to announce a clean audit opinion for the first time during the 23-24 financial year, which basically means that we received an unqualified audit opinion with no material findings. which is an improvement from the previous year's audit outcome, which was an unqualified audit opinion with findings. The table below, you see, basically confirms the sort of improved trajectory of Nedlac in terms of our audit outcomes, moving from the right to the left. You'll see that there's more green and less red items, which confirms the improvement in the various compliance sections as audited by the APSA. Lisa, you can move to the next slide. We've also put in a summary of our statement of financial performance. And I think I'd like to focus on the two items towards the bottom, being the transfers from other government entities and the service in kind. With regards to transfers, these are transfers from the fiscus, and you'll note a slight increase in the 24 financial year, which is mainly due to us, the PCC joining us. They joined us in the 23 financial year. However, for the 24 financial year, they were there for the full year, hence we received their full transfer in that financial year. The other key line item there is our service in kind revenue. This revenue relates specifically to our program 4 PCC, which is expenditure it has dispersed on behalf of the PCC by their donor funding fiscal host. And from an accounting, it's purely an accounting entry. So there's no funds necessarily transferred in or out of Nedlac for this item, but from an accounting perspective, these were required to be recognized, which took us to a total revenue of 103 million. We can move to the next slide. In terms of our expenditure, to focus on the material line items, the miscellaneous expenditure, as well as the employee-related costs. For both of these line items, you'll notice a significant increase from the prior year. Again, this was mainly due to the PCC being with us for the full financial year, as well as service in kind expenditure, where we recognize revenue in the earlier slide. We needed to recognize the corresponding expenditure as well, which again increased our expenditure quite substantially. It did leave us with a accounting deficit at the bottom of 17.3 million. However, I think it's important to inform the portfolio committee that there was no non-compliance or over expenditure, because we did spend still within our budget, but due to the accounting entries, it resulted in a deficit. So there was no over expenditure in terms of our budget for both financial years. This on to the next slide, please. In terms of the program breakdown, we summarized for each of our 4 programs the expenditure versus actual versus budget. I think probably to note that on most programs we are more or less fine. I think on program 4 there was that more significant variance, which again comes from the service in kind revenue, which wasn't any sort of inflow or outflow of funds directly from Nedlac, but again purely for the accounting purposes. Again, to note that there was no non-compliance due to the deficit on that program. Lisa, next slide, please. I think on the comments, the comments basically summarize what I've already spoken to. It just summarizes some of the key line items from our financial performance. Lisa, I think you can go on to the next slide, which I think I'm covered on my side. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks a lot for that. So just lastly, risks and risk mitigation. I think there's 2 slides here. One talks about the strategic risks, and which relate to, at a high level, there is always the issue of that our social dialogue and social compacting might be ineffective. And I referred earlier on to the challenge with the tobacco bill, and we are trying to mitigate that. And it would be desirable if we could also get the support of the portfolio committee. There is also the risk to inability to achieve consensus between social partners, and this really requires proactive engagement, which we do quite a lot of. And then insufficient clarity in the minds of the public on the role of Nedlac and the PCC, and this is really where our high-profile annual summit has played an important role. At an operational level, I'm not really going to go through these because they really relate to things which are common amongst all government departments, and something that we need to be doing and managing in an ongoing way around IT training and so on. Thank you, Honourable Chair.
Chair, thank you very much. That then concludes our presentations, and we will now hand it over back to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Acting TG and the team from Productivity South Africa and Nedlac. We, honorable members, we now have the presentations, which you also went through. As agreed, we'll now give space for members to come in and engage the presentations. I see Honorable Maetso would be followed by Honorable Mkonto. There's Honorable Begra. Please, Nedlac, if you can switch off your mic. Yeah. Okay, let me then repeat again. As I said, we have Honorable Maetso, followed by Honorable Mkonto. Then there's Honorable Begra. We have got Honorable Mbele, Honorable Ngopane, then there's Honorable Zungula and Honorable Nansele. We'll then follow that order. Honorable Maetso, you are now recognized. You can proceed.
Thank you, Chair. I think that the members can see my face for the purpose of making sure that I'm not the person that I will become an imposter, but I think, Chair, as per your instruction, that we must show our face. Let me quickly get into the points which I want to make. Sorry, Chair. Chair, slide 17 of the presentation by Productivity SA, slide 17, it highlights the 9 achievements. There, I want the presenter to go there quickly on the slide 17. If the presenter is still here.
Slide 17. Yes, you can proceed in the meantime, Honorable Maetso.
Okay, yeah. The question here is around these percentages which are highlighted here, and I would want the presenter to elaborate further in assisting us in as far as the mitigating factors will be, and also what are the plans moving forward in making sure that we mitigate this particular situation. That's number one. And then, Chair, in terms of the financial summary of financial year 2023-2024, slide 26. The clarity which, but it's not even a clarity, but it's a concern, Chair, that the salary bill of 8.5 million, but the allocation is lesser. I think that if we can get the breakdown of the operations in as far as this particular issue is concerned, it will help a lot. Because I'm quite worried and concerned that if we have a salary bill of 84.5 million, yet we have a 68.5 million of allocation, not disregarding the other grant fundings. But the two amount, for me, I would want to get a more comprehensive breakdown on in terms of the operations of the entity itself. And then, Chair, let me move quicker in the interest of time. And then the other questions which I would want to ask is that what was the target and the actual number of research of seminars delivered in the first quarter? I'm still on the productivity South Africa. And then the second one will be how many reports and publication were planned for the research, number one, innovation and statistics program by the end of the fiscal year. Then also the financial challenges which are facing productivity SA currently, if also we can be also given that. But the second last question on productivity SA will be the strategy. What are the strategies that have been implemented to ensure the financial sustainability for productivity SA? And the last one on the productivity SA, Chair, will be what are the overall, or what was the overall performance of the business turnaround recovery program in as far as the productivity SA is concerned. And then lastly, Chair, I will then get into the Nedlac presentation, and I want to welcome the Nedlac presentation. Seemingly here, there is a 98% of the work or the targets that are achieved, and we should, as a committee where the entity is doing well and performing well, we must comment that and applaud it. However, Chair, the question then that I have for Nedlac is on their presentation, is that what were the results of the satisfaction survey conducted by Nedlac, and how satisfied were stakeholders and staff? And then, Chair, on top of that, what are specific strategies in terms of the rapid response task team implementing to reduce red tape in the distribution of food and food donation in response to the rising cost of living? But the last one, Chair, will be the risk and the risk mitigation measures which were identified, particularly concerning consensus among social partners. So if I can then get that clarity, Chair, I think that whatever that the input of the minister, the general input of the minister delivered by the minister here covers major challenges that were highlighted by the minister, and we will then get a way forward, moving forward. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Maito. Honorable Mkong, recognized, can proceed.
Chair, I don't know whether you will be able to hear me. I'm now having network problems. Chair, it's just a question.
Yes, you are audible though, yes.
Okay, thanks, Chair. It's a question to Productivity SA. We have been doing our work as Productivity SA in silos for many years now, and we are not performing. Productivity SA is not performing. I don't know, Chair, which one dominates the other between the township economy and small businesses. I think, Chair, now we have to get a plan from Productivity SA, because many businesses are in the townships, as to how are they going to work with the Department of Small Businesses to make sure that all these people that are selling amagwinya, are selling all types of vegetables in the township are productive. For this country to be productive, we can't ignore the township economy. Thanks very much, Chair.
Honorable Mkonto, Honorable Begram. Right? You're muted, Honorable Begram.
Thank you. Sorry about that. I couldn't unmute myself. I apologize. Just two short questions. One, Productivity SA for the last 10 years has shown South Africa to be, I think it's the second worst in the world, the productivity, and somehow nothing changes. We've still got business as usual, the same reports every time. They do pass themselves. They do say that they need more money. But do we need Productivity SA, or can we look at something different? Can we have some sort of sea change and make sure that we're actually answering the call? I can't blame Productivity SA, but what I can say is the results have been the same, almost negative. With regard to Nedlac, a different type of question, and that is well done to Nedlac, and there seems to have been quite a lot of movement, and we're seeing some results, and I'm very pleased. I think the results for this latest branch of amendments have taken about 3 or 4 years to come about, and I know it's been a long, hard slog. I know they've now got at least some consensus amongst the social partners, and well done. The problem I'm seeing is that often when they do get consensus amongst the social partners, it then comes to Parliament, it goes to the presidency, goes to the cabinet, comes to Parliament to be debated, and somehow that completely changes. What's coming out of the consensus of Nedlac is a very different animal that we've seen coming out of Parliament, sometimes to the disappointment of one or two of the social partners. And is there any way in which we could possibly think of somehow making sure that what comes out of consensus of the social partners has more strength in the debate, and especially in the portfolio committee? So thank you, Chair. Thank you for listening to that.
Thank you, Honorable Begram. And I recognize Honorable Kopane.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Greetings to you and the meeting, Chairperson. My question, Chair, is on Productivity SA. How does Productivity SA plan to address the financial strain caused by the increasing cost of post-retirement medical aid, and what alternative strategies are being considered to ensure long-term financial sustainability? I had 4 questions, Chair, but now the rest have been asked by my colleagues, so I leave them because they are already handled. Thank you, Chair.
And now we recognize the Honorable Mbele. Honorable Mbele.
Okay, thank you very much, Chairperson. Yeah, first of all, I think what I'm going to comment on is term of the Nedlac. Yes, Nedlac is doing good. But I would also emphasize the issues of the policies. Maybe if the policies can be very clear and strong in terms of making sure that when we talk about the issues of the jobs created, let's also make sure that, and we also, when we talk about the SMMEs and the cooperatives, we really have a very good strategy of making sure that those areas, those businesses, they grow. And then at the end of the day, they don't get frustrated. And then especially within the issues of the, I know the policy says they must be paid within 30 days and all that stuff, but we also need to monitor that. But otherwise, I want to applaud them for their good work they are doing. Then in terms of the Productivity SA, I also would like to applaud Productivity SA, to be honest, because Productivity SA is really talking to the issues of our people that are really disadvantaged and that have been very disadvantaged for a very long time. When we talk, I think Honorable Mkhonto was taking my notes in a way, because whatever that she was saying, it was on my notes. Now, if we talk about the people, the informal traders, because that's what we call them, those ones that are selling from the streets and at home and all that stuff. We talk about the kind of employment that you can register. Because let me just tell you now, maybe around KZN or around Northwest, maybe you can go up to 100,000 people that are informal who are selling just for the living. But they've gotten, I call that it's a job. It's a job creation, because for themselves, you can count that they take kids to school. At least there's a day where people, there's every day, they make sure that there's food on the table and all that, although it's not growing. But I think if we can focus and then make sure that as a productivity, we also focus on that and making sure that those informal traders, we change them to be formal and also assist them in making sure that their business, it grows. We have a strategy on how we are going to make sure that they grow. Because I will make an example, Chairperson. When you go to the issues, maybe in the areas in the rank, maybe in the even in the hostel for that matter, because I did visit those areas. And then when you go there, you find that there's a lot of people that are selling there. You see what I'm talking about? And then now, if you take those people and then make sure that whatever they are selling, maybe they are selling tomatoes and the vegetables. Now we must find a way of saying, how can we make sure that they produce those things that they are selling? If they are selling chicken, they must produce so that they make money. Because if they go and buy those things from other shops, from other retailers, those commodities are very expensive. Now they don't make profit at the end of the day, so it's useless. If maybe I will make an example, if Checkers can say, okay, right, I'm going to take your product, your product. Maybe they are making spinach. I will make an example of a spinach. When they go there, they determine the price, how much they must sell to them. And then at the end of the day, they don't make any, they don't even break even in the business. They are losing because the Checkers is only looking at its own interest. And we know that these big businesses, they are monopolizing the issues of especially the agriculture side. So now we have to break that. Let our people produce and sell. So we need to really to be honest. We need to be serious when we are developing our businesses of our people. For me, I wouldn't lie. At least Productivity SA, you are doing well. It's just then we need to up our game and make sure that you are visible, and make sure that we invite you in those when we do our constituency work, because we meet with different stakeholders. Then when they are there, we can maybe say a productivity is come and make a presentation on what you are, just so that you can see your clients. How are they and what is it that you interact with them and find out what is it that they want? What are the challenges and all that stuff? That is what we can talk about the development. So I'm happy that you are working with the SMMEs, but at the same time, I will echo this until our term finishes. We need to go to the rural areas. We can't ignore them. We need next time, maybe when we do a report, the next financial year, when you give us the report, you must be able to tell us what is it that you have done in the rural areas. We are here, we are portfolio members. We are going to assist you. We will take you, because in our constituency work, we are working with those people. We are going to them, we are inviting them. When we go and check the challenges, what the challenges do we have? We don't check which political party person is coming, because we are working for the parliament. So when you go to the community, you don't have to say, hey, where do you belong? You go to the community and be honest and meet with people, not with the politicians, with people who are in that sector. So thank you very much, Chairperson. Otherwise, you are doing good. As much as you need to improve on the areas where you said, especially with the issues of the research, because, and also maybe in terms of your research, we also need to find a space where you really research about these things that we are talking about, so that you can be able to can have a solution in terms of that. Otherwise, good work. Thank you so much, Chair.
The Honorable Mpele, and I recognize the Honorable Zungula and Honorable Lonselo Pilas.
Thank you, Chairperson. Greetings to yourself, the committee members, the department, and the entities. I've got a couple of questions, Chair. The first one is directed towards Productivity SA. I'm trying to understand, Chair, when it comes to the performance of the entity. When it comes to research innovation, there's been underperformance for the past 3 consecutive years, which in my view raises concerns about the entity's commitment and ability to generate impactful insights. So I wanted to find out what are the causes of the underperformance for these years, and what actions have been taken to ensure that from a capacity perspective, there is capacity to actually fulfill or meet the performance targets for the next coming years. On the question of the financial statements or audit, there is an audit findings that highlight instances of non-compliance with legislation. So I want to find out what measures are being taken to address the compliance gaps and ensure that the entity complies with their respective laws and legislation. It is similarly with the issue of internal controls. What is being done to strengthen internal controls and address the deficiencies? Now, when it comes to Nedlac, on the stakeholders and staff satisfactions, I want to check were there any reasons that were given as to why only 13% of the stakeholders were slightly satisfied or not at all satisfied. And then the other issue when it comes to Nedlac, I think, Chair, we need to firstly applaud Nedlac for the work that is being done. However, I think we need to really encourage Nedlac to be as vocal as possible, especially when it comes to Parliament, when there are instances whereby Parliament would be failing on its legislative duty when it comes to the process it follows when it comes to bills. Sometimes we read in the media about instances whereby there are voices that are saying that some of the bills that are before Parliament, Nedlac, there was no thorough consultation, or the consultation processes was not done with Nedlac. I would really encourage Nedlac to say, in such instances, instead of waiting for after the fact, whereby a bill has been passed by a committee of Parliament and it is taken to the House and is approved to the House, it goes to the President. Only then Nedlac comes in and says, but the processes were not followed when it comes to thorough consultation with Nedlac. If there's any movement that is being done by any committee that Nedlac would view that as a violation or non-compliance with the Act or the processes, I think Nedlac needs to communicate directly to the Speaker to make sure that they register their dissatisfaction, so that whatever that Parliament would then do, they know that they are doing it against the advice of Nedlac. I want to make an example of one particular bill, the tobacco bill. We saw a press release that was speaking to that regard. So it makes me wonder, and this is now the question to Nedlac, besides the tobacco bill, are there any other bills that are being processed by Parliament which they view as Nedlac as bills that are being processed without thorough consultation with Nedlac, in the sense that committees of parliament are undermining Nedlac as a body when it comes to them processing the bills. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Zungula. I now recognize the Honorable Lansela. You can unmute.
Okay. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson, and good morning to you, and good morning to all honorable members. Let me just to indicate that I'm the real person. Thank you, Chair. Chair, I think in appreciation of the presentations that have been made, let me start with the presentation that has been made by Honorable Minister. In the appreciation of that input, I want just to reaffirm even further, just by noting the statement that has been made by His Excellency the President in observing the 100 days of the Government of National Unity, wherein he makes notes around the steps that have been taken by the department, particularly on issues of enforcement and compliance and inspection that have been done, which are currently the order of the day. As we note even today that there is an inspection ongoing in Northwest, which indicates that the kind of experience that we see on a day-to-day where people, particularly children, are fed poisoned substances, food substances, would become a thing of the past. The second point is with regard to noting again that we have a responsibility as a committee to ensure that the entities we oversight, in particular Nedlac, are entities that are in fact held to be functional enough. That includes the question, for instance, of their stated mandate of ensuring that they facilitate consensus within social partners. So the point that issues or legislation is brought to Parliament, not taking into account that necessarily consultative forum, it would need to be addressed as a matter of principle from this end. And in this regard, we want to request your indulgence in this regard so that we ensure that we do not make Nedlac and other entities unviable through the actions of government, that is by bypassing them. I've got just a few questions here because also my other questions have been already covered. With regard to Nedlac, the first question, Chair, relates to the question of risk mitigation, as to what risk and mitigation measures that were identified, particularly concerning the consensus among social partners. The key question here, Chair, relates to if, for instance, we can go back to the period of the ERRP, where social partners could not agree on the issue of social compacting, which His Excellency the President has made a commitment around. So I want to check on that point, if the director from Nedlac can just expand on that point and the steps that they were taking with regard to risk mitigation relating to the measures that arise as a result of non-consensus among social partners. The second question, Chair, relates to Productivity SA. Around Productivity SA is the question, because the question that has been raised, I want to rephrase it differently, that is around research, innovation, and statistics, as to overall, what were their planned reports and publication, if, for instance, their targets relating to financing and everything that have impacted upon them have not been in place, what would have been the total amount of the reports and publications that they would have produced? And the next question, the last question, Chair, would be around the strategies, still on productivity essay. What strategies are being implemented to ensure that there is financial sustainability that is within the entity? We take note that there's been quite a lot of financial constraint, which is in fact reflected within the report, the report itself. But we want to understand from their side so that we're able to also come in handy in helping the entity in ensuring that all the steps that are being devised and are put in place to overcome this serious challenge. We support them as a committee. Thank you, Chair. Those are my questions.
Honorable Nsana, I'll now give an opportunity to the ATG and the team to respond to questions asked or reflect on comments made. ATG.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you very much to the honorable members for the engagement. Chair, I suggest perhaps that we undertake the answering of the questions the following, that perhaps the CEO of PDSA starts, and then followed by the director of Nedlac, and then I will sweep behind that if there are any other issues that still require sort of attention after they have provided some answers to some of the questions. Thank you very much. Over to you, CEO.
Thank you, Acting DG. I'm just going to actually flight as well the presentation at the same time so that it helps respond to some of the questions. So I'm going to be starting, and I'm going to allow the CFO also to come in related to the mitigating factors for slide 17. That's going to be on the performance as well as the audit findings and non-compliance side of it. But I will just, and then she must just respond also on the strengthening of controls and inefficiencies. So if I just start, and I'm going to speak through what we need to achieve as an entity. Firstly, sorry, I'm just trying to share my slide. Okay, I'm going to be speaking through this. As an entity, of course, you know what, we have this mandate, and when Honorable, Nyeko mentioned about the concerns as well, and I'm not going to put it into slideshow because I'm going to move through the slides themselves. The salary bill versus, you know, the allocation itself. As an entity of Department of Employment and Labor, we are Schedule 3A entity, which means that we also have to generate additional revenue. So the allocation from the Department of Labor actually contributes more to the administration side. 25% of this allocation actually goes for implementation on the SMME side of it. The rest of it, like the business turnaround and recovery, has to be funded by the unemployment fund. The workplace challenge program, which is one of the initiatives within competitiveness improvement services, has to be funded by the DTIC, which means that the funding allocation is for us as an entity to have the administration sorted out, you know, like we're talking about with our corporate office, HR, finance, you know, when it comes to corporate relations. It's very, very limiting because it also has to cover the regional offices to have the infrastructure in place. So we have raised this as well with our funders being down. that for us to meet this mandate of employment growth and workplace productivity, the allocation doesn't suffice. But of course, we know we must be able to generate additional as well. So you can see that here, there is so much opportunity for us to generate, but we have a situation where we must be able to employ people to be able to service deliver at the end of the day, since only 25% of that allocation is for service delivery itself. And from that, or with that being said, we actually need like a year to 2 years once we employ. I mean, people go out, they would be obviously servicing according to our contracts or projects, but we must be able to also substantiate their salaries. So it means that we must be able to generate additional to cover the operational costs. And as we know, coming out of COVID, and this is also to respond to Honorable Bikaram, that reality is Productivity SA came out with a surplus in 2019, 20, 2022, 21, 2021, 22. And that was during COVID years. We couldn't achieve all our targets. But once we are moving towards achieving those targets and we are financially sustainable, as soon as we hit 100% APP target, then we are in a financial situation. There are many things that we're trying to do good. Of course, at the end of the day, are we answering that call? And for us is the IMD competitiveness rating, actually from last year to this year, as South Africa, we have improved. Business efficiency has actually improved. And these are results we, of course, share as part of the IMD and the statistics that we share in research, innovation, and statistics. So the operations itself has to be covered. So when we go out to service clients, and remember we are service delivery, and when we speak about service delivery, we are the actual agency implementing as opposed to administrating just grants. Therefore, we need to have the resources, which are generally productivity specialists, the industrial engineers, that must be able to go and deliver on the services. At the same time, our research, innovation, and statistics has capacity constraints, which played a bigger role in achieving what they needed to. So as you can see here, and I'm giving also an indication, from some of the questions that came out, I think, along the way from all the members regarding research, innovation, and statistics. So for the last 3 financial years, we've indicated that we didn't achieve. There has been instability in the unit. And I've mentioned it about the entity as a whole as well, but for the unit itself, there was no executive manager. We've actually lost resources along the way. And due to the moratorium, so there was an initial moratorium that was put in place by our board because of the financial constraints. And then, of course, the National Treasury moratorium is also a factor now. So we couldn't fully capacitate the unit. The unit is actually sitting at about a 30% capacity. But if we get the executive manager to look at also leveraging of the strategic partnerships, being able to also, when we speak about revenue generation, that means every time we publish also the relevant research, it's important for us to be able to also, charge for some of the services. But our mandate or part of our responsibilities is the 4 reports that need to be published per year. We only achieved 2 in the previous financial year. But when it comes to the statistics as well as the IMD competitiveness rating, we actually do achieve our targets in total for that because we've got a long-term relationship also with the IMD itself. So that's where our gap is. It's on the research side of it, not the statistics side of it or the indicators itself. And the ILO special project as well is trying to help capacitate us as an entity. So they're expanding on some of the avenues of indicators, but if we do not have the relevant resources to be able to move forward on publications and so forth, that's where we have our challenge. So that's one part of it. I've responded to the operations and the entity, the reports itself, the seminars. We actually have a number of seminars. I'm just going to that indicator here, advocacy and public awareness. So we also have the research seminars that actually come in per quarter that we actually plan. So in Q1, we managed to do our 2 research seminars as well. We ended up achieving at 3 of the total advocacy and public awareness. And then we managed to achieve the full, yearly target as well. That's just part of our responsibilities. That's just to respond to Honorable Mieko. So what is planned as well for the financial situation? At the end of the day, our financial indicators, when it comes to our business turnaround and financial sustainability strategy, this is something that we brought into effect from January this year, and we further enhanced it with the revenue strategy from April. The implementation of this is looking at cost-centric, which is obviously the cost containment measures that we're implementing, looking at cost efficiency and resource utilization. But it's very difficult when we say we need to sweat the asset, because we have people to be able to implement, but their utilization levels are very high, and we're seeing the impact obviously on the actual workforce itself. So we must have people to be able to deliver on our service, but then, who actually carries that cost of the person at the initial stages when they join the entity before they become as well potential, revenue generators as well. We must have a 6 months to a year period for us to stabilize as an entity. Second is innovation itself, and we actually created a new program through the ILO Productivity Ecosystem for Decent Work. This is now looking at the Productivity Ecosystem for Decent Work program, that is sustainability of entities. And this for us is key on service delivery, and it is endorsed by the ILO themselves. We also have the strategic alliances, so we are partnering with other entities so that we can supplement, when it comes to financial aspects. And then we want to leverage off technology, but there needs to be some sort of investment as well for us to be able to reach as well more entities, from digitalization kind of strategy. But the idea is, and you will see here, from the 40 million rand additional revenue that we are actually aiming at, and then there's a 62 million rand, that's the allocation. So we are trying to supplement this this is purely income generation by our entity itself. But again, it's a 33% vacancy rate as well. Honorable Mkoto actually mentioned about the township and rural economy. That's one of our priority areas now, ever since COVID, what we ended up changing towards, and I think I've mentioned it in previous sessions. You'll see here, this is for the competitiveness improvement services. We support 2,400 entrepreneurs, and this is the reason why we do this. And even though it wouldn't even scratch the surface, honestly, Honorable Mbele actually mentioned this as well. There's so many SMMEs, there's 2.7 million SMMEs, of which 1.7 of them is actually in the informal economy. So previous to COVID, we actually had 5,500 SMMEs that we would support. We obviously could not support them totally. We split the target. So now we are aiming at township and rural economies as well. And in the next portfolio committee meeting, we'll actually provide by district where we are performing our duties. And we're trying to ensure that we are there, but understand the funding, the 25% allocated for this program here. That grant allocation is for us to service the 1,252 enterprises and 2,400 entrepreneurs. So it's a very limited fund, and therefore we look at strategic partners. But even accessing them, it costs money for us to go into those areas, but we are doing it because it's through the municipality partnerships as well. And I'm glad to hear the positive remarks from Honorable Mbele to say that, we are here to ensure that we are assisting, communities. And we will be there at any session that you invite us to. We do a lot of work with in Limpopo, in Mpumalanga, in the Eastern Cape at the moment. We're trying to branch out into Free State and Northwest. But understand we've only got offices in the larger provinces because that's the infrastructure we have. So we leverage off the strategic partners as well. The last parts that I would just like to raise as well is, reality is we can't ignore the township economy. And as you all have seen in my previous presentation, we even had some automotive, your panel beaters and so forth in the township that we were supporting. But we have a number of projects that are running underway at this moment. So yes, it's about growing those businesses and making them. We deal with the women in business. That's the whole idea. And you'll see the number of women that we support is very high, because when we go to the township and the rural economy, that's where you see a lot of the informal traders as well. And it is our priority. The underperformance of RIS, as we've mentioned, we do want to commit that we have plans in place, but we must be able to actually capacitate them, as Honorable Zumbula actually mentioned. So that's our biggest issue. So we do have these targets, we have plans. And then lastly, before I hand over to our CFO, just to wrap up, is the Business Turnaround Recovery Program. They wanted to get an indication of what we achieved. We managed, okay, so there's two indicators here. We managed to achieve 100% for the year. And maybe I'll go to, sorry, I'm going to go up to the slide where it shows in summary. We achieved 100% APP for business turnaround and recovery. We supported 71 enterprises. They saved 5,390 jobs. We trained 934 future forum members. And this is between management and labor because it's looking at collaboration as well. So we have achieved that and, it's been successful. But again, it's that the resources required for us to implement. And it's not even just from a monetary point, it's about the initial for us to get on board some of our productivity practitioners is important as well. So I'm going to hand over then. I think I've responded to majority of it. If there's anything I have left out, please do raise for me. But I think I'll hand over to our CFO. Thank you, CFO.
Thank you, honorable members, and thank you, acting CEO. Just to wrap up in a nutshell, there was a question that was raised regarding our plans in Productivity SA to strengthen the compliance areas, particularly those that are raised through our audit finding. We are at the coalface of those challenges, and we are faced with intensive capacity issues, particularly in our procurement and our SCM area, which then exposes us to non-compliance areas. However, we have strengthened the environment through our combined insurance model. What we have done now is to leverage over that combined assurance model by bringing in probity audits and probity reviews that will be conducted through our internal audit function, which will then assist us throughout in all the processes, not just procurement, but within operations in strengthening the internal controls and within the other key area of challenge, which is HRM. So we're really hopeful that that model, supported by our Audit and Risk Committee, will assist us in reducing those. I will also give assurance to the Portfolio Committee that looking now at Q2, we have managed to resolve most of those findings, and we are sitting at 3 now in terms of number that we are working towards. So we are very hopeful that by the end of the financial year, those will be mitigated to being resolved and will not repeat, because it's important that our internal control environment, once we implement these probity reviews and all the other things to strengthen it, these are long-term and sustainable so that we don't have repeat audit findings in the same area. Just in a nutshell, from a financial perspective, as the acting CEO mentioned, Productivity SA has a perpetual financial challenge. And this year, like any other entity, we were not exempt from the budgetary cuts that were implemented across the fiscus. We have been selected by the department to participate in the spending review, which National Treasury is rolling out in the model with GTech, where the department is assisting us in looking at our main cost driver, which is the cost of employees, as correctly indicated. We are a human capital intensive entity, because we are the implementing agency. Therefore, we hire people to be able to go out and do the job. Through the spending review, we are hoping to come out with recommendations, working together with the department, which will then inform our long-term financial sustainability. Not that we are sitting and just waiting for that spending review to conclude. There are operational initiatives that are currently underway as part of our business turnaround and financial sustainability program. We are prioritizing revenue generation, which we are planning to make sure that it bridges the gap between the allocation from the department and that of our operational expenditure. We are operating under a moratorium on vacancies. So in part of that, we are re-looking at opportunities to re-look at the structure. In saying that, some of the business critical vacancies that we have to move forward with to ensure that the APP is met, we are looking at fixed-term contracting versus permanent employment, because the model there says that the person is employed and is linked to a specific project, and throughout the project term, they get to earn their salary, which in fact means that we don't increase the salary bill. So we are looking at that model. It's currently working with operations. We are looking at opportunities and how to expand that throughout the organization through the spending review that we're doing with the Department and National Treasury. There's great opportunity also that we have in the pipeline with further engagement with the UIF BTNR project that is funded by UIF rather, in introduction of some form of management fees. We are in engagement with the UIF to introduce other initiatives to maximize our retention, because we get the grant, but we have to work to earn the money towards the grant, which then means that Productivity SA generates revenue from the work that our practitioners get to do, and then that bridges the gap in our finances. The PRMA is a very big issue for Productivity SA at the moment. There is no funding, extra funding for the post-retirement medical aid. We then have to generate, the active employees in the entity have to go out and generate additional revenue in order for the entity to comply with the court order to continue paying for the post-retirement medical aid. The case is still ongoing. As part of the whole process, we are looking at other options which will alleviate the pressure, because currently it is sitting at about 100% subsidy, and it's something that Productivity SA cannot afford and is not sustainable for our financial muscle going forward. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much, Chair. I'll hand over back to you.
Can
we get Nedlac?
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much for the questions, and also a big thank you for the words of appreciation. Thanks very much for that. So there are not a lot of questions. I'll just go through them in the order in which they were asked. On the question about the Honourable Member, the satisfaction survey. So most of our stakeholders were satisfied. How do we address those that are not satisfied? It's really about continuing to perform in an excellent way, and also to be more responsive to them. And it is something that we have introduced and we continue to introduce. We're also thinking a little bit about, like, at the end of each of our dialogue sessions, to put up like a survey and ask people to comment, and so that we can become more responsive to stakeholder needs. On the issue about the specific strategies around high food prices, so there's a number of them. There is an initiative, particularly with business, around food donations. This is quite a sensitive issue, as was raised, I think, around the issue of food safety by Honourable Nonsele. But is there a way in which it can be easier for business, and it's mostly in the manufacturing sector, not necessarily in retail, to donate food for consumption, through charities and so on? There needs to be the balance between safety and creating more opportunities. The second area that's being looked at relates to whether there could be a basket of food, especially focusing on children, which are protein rich, which could be subsidized jointly by government and by business. This is quite a controversial proposal, but we are discussing it. And then we are also engaged. There's also the proposal to reduce VAT on certain foodstuffs, which is also being engaged upon, but it's not necessarily supported because it's regarded as it would still have a greater benefit for the rich than for the poor. And then there are also initiatives looking at and supporting household food security. I think I'll answer the issue about the risk and social partners a bit later, because it was also asked by Honourable Nonsele. Honourable Bagram raises a very important question, I think the answer of which really rests with your committee, because he is right that we create a consensus, we reach a consensus or areas of agreement and disagreement in Nedlac. Then it would go to the minister, to cabinet, and then it comes to parliament. Sometimes in parliament, then there are public comments, and the portfolio committee may agree on things that are different. That's what happened with the last set of LRA amendments. And really, it's you as this committee in the deliberations in parliament that would need to determine whether you want to take into account the public comments, of which you are entitled to, because that's your role as parliament, or whether you'd want to give more weight to the consensus of the Nedlac parties. So I think that isn't an issue which Nedlac can address. It's an issue which Parliament and this committee and others can address. Honorable Mbele talked about the importance of supporting SMMEs, and yes, that is one of the focuses in Nedlac, and we have had reports around how far government is going, for example, to pay SMMEs in 30 days. Then the issue raised by Honorable Zungula is also the issue that I raised, and yes, you know, the tobacco bill is exactly the current problem. Generally, we do raise the issues as soon as we can, and we did raise the tobacco bill problem even before it came to Parliament, when it had, when Cabinet had made an announcement and said it's gone through Cabinet and it's going to Parliament. We really have been everywhere, to the chairperson of the Health Portfolio Committee in the 6th administration, the Deputy President and the Minister. You know, I am available, Honorable Chairperson, to share with you the documents that we have written, the letter from Business Unity South Africa, as well as the views of organised labour on this matter. I would take your advice as well as the advice of the minister, our minister, about approaching the speaker as well. Honorable Zungula also asked whether there are other bills. There is the SOE bill, which I see has just been tabled. So we are still in a process of discussion with the social partners before we write a letter to our minister raising this. But yes, this is also potentially a challenge. There are a number of other bills, which is sometimes a bit ambiguous about whether or not it should come to Nedlac. And usually we hear from our social partners, Organised Business Lab and community, how strongly they feel about whether such a bill should come to Nedlac. The legislative requirement is significant socioeconomic implications, and sometimes there are bills, often administrative bills, which do not have significant socioeconomic implications. And then to go to the issue about the risk mitigation and how do we manage achieving consensus, particularly around the social compact of called in 2022 by President Cyril Ramaphosa. So it is an issue which is discussed, and I think the biggest mitigation, and I think it's something also now accepted by the president, is that we should be not necessarily working on a big social compact, although there is discussion now about a national, in the national dialogue process about building a national consensus on an economic vision, but in Nedlac to rather look at sectoral or issue-based social compacts. So we have been more successful, as the committee knows, for example, the social compact on Eskom the issues about food, which we talked about earlier on, can play a role in a social compact, and particularly, on the just transition, there is significant scope for social compacts. And so that is really the way in which social partners are approaching it. Organized business in particular do not want, also would prefer and have successfully had a bipartite relationship with the presidency around some of the key economic challenges, and Operation Vulindlela, which generally is part of social dialogue and has been regarded as a success by the president and by the other partners. Honorable Chair, I hope I've successfully answered the questions. And if there is further clarity, we can also put it in writing. Thanks.
Chair, thank you very much. I think that sort of covers some of those aspects that came through earlier on. But Chair, I would like to perhaps add one or two issues to the responses that my colleagues have already provided. Perhaps firstly, starting with the area that the minister had requested that I cover, and that was relating to, what work are we envisaging in terms of assisting the mining community, particularly the businesses and employees in that particular sector who are facing some difficulties. So we have recently noticed the same patterns that coming out of the CCMA, there's been an increase of activity that is beginning to suggest that certain sectors are beginning to feel the pinch of perhaps a sluggish economy, if you like, and as a result are contemplating layoffs. And there are some significant numbers that are coming through that particular process. We've also looked at other data sets that are also, confirming the same, including the statistics, trade statistics coming out of the South African Revenue Service. And to this extent, we have taken initiative to increase the support that we're providing to these businesses and employees. And this is done via tiers, as it were. So we've increased the budget provision for this financial year from 400 million to 2.4 billion rand. And as indicated, it is largely as a response and to try and stave off the retrenchments in those particular sectors. We are concerned largely mainly about the mining sector, the manufacturing sector, and also the telecommunication sector, because this is where we're seeing some significant numbers. So hence we had to respond in the manner in which we're responding. And of course, to a greater extent as well, we do expect that Productivity SA will also play a significant role in giving non-financial support to these particular sectors. On the issue of Productivity SA as it relates to its own capacity, we are obviously working together with Productivity SA, as indicated by the colleagues, to give a deeper look into their requirements and for resources. We are of the view that perhaps a relook into that is required, and we are engaged in discussions, but it also becomes important that we encourage Productivity SA to look at other alternative forms of generating a revenue without necessarily straying from their mandated position, as it were. Related to the aspect of, I think it was raised earlier on about the issues that perhaps we need to be cognizant of as it relates to bypassing of Nedlac processes, which I also spoke to in my opening remarks. I think this is going to require a joint effort between all the relevant parties to make sure that we mitigate against that particular risk. You know, what I think we probably need to do, and we will work together with Nedlac in this respect, to look at what early warning systems can we put in place such that we do not necessarily react, mid-game or after the game, but perhaps we then, sort of preempt some of these particular processes. We will explore some of these as indicated. But let me also, Chair, join my colleagues by appreciating the positive feedback that we've been given by the committee, and also the words of encouragement where they have been indicated. But we equally accept the criticism where we have not necessarily done well. I think, we seek to ensure that we improve, and we believe in continuous improvement, and we take both the positive and the negative criticism in stride, and with the understanding that that criticism is seeking to make sure that we do better, and not only better for ourselves, but better for those that we're providing for, which is the people of South Africa. Chair, so maybe at this stage, let me pause there, and as responses to the current round of questions that have come through. Thank you very much.
Thank you, AG, and the team from Nedlac and Productivity South Africa on your responses to points raised by members. I take it that, honorable members, there's now been responses, but maybe before we summarize, I must just check whether there's possibly a clarity as part of following up on the response that you may have received. So I take it then that members would have been covered with the responses received thus far. I think what we may need to do is to really, just for packaging of information, to is that just on productivity South Africa, on the information that we have. So I've been also trying to check again whether with the updating of the document, this matter is resolved. The issue in relation to the expenditures per program. Please, if you can address that aspect so that when the content advisors work on our final report, that is taken into consideration. The issues about capacity, I think you'll take that back, ADG and the team, as an observation from the committee, especially if it comes on the parts of research and that over a 3-year period. So we just hope that what the minister would have raised earlier on will also help resolve this part, filling off the positions that need to be filled. Of course, the partnerships. And by partnerships, it's something to explore that we don't seem to be using in many aspects as the state. We don't seem to be using institutions of higher learning in that partnership in a way that benefits us, but also creating space for the graduates to put into practice some of these solutions that they write about from a point of the academia. So I'm just saying we believe that should also be getting some space so that we don't say in the next financial year it's now been 4 years, because if there are interventions that are made in these companies that we are trying to rescue from distress, and there's no research inside, innovation is affected and all that. The question will really be whether we are helping from a point of being informed even by trends elsewhere, based on research. So take that back as you go with there. But of course, there's appreciation that there's been quite a lot of improvement on their work. There's also a point on Nedlac. We'll take that you said probably rests with the committee on the best support we can have as we look at the laws, of course, taking into account that whilst there may have been agreements at that point, we are expected also to have an open mind as we get to a public participation process, so that we are able to take the submissions from the public also in the same serious consideration, which should then shape the final law that should come out. But of course, you are saying probably we need to look at how we ensure that we don't lose those agreements that may have been reached by social partners at that level. So we'll try and create that balance. But there's something that I thought also would be something you would look at. It may not be a response now, but in the annual summit, which we had a privilege to attend, being new in the committee, some of us, there was a point raised which didn't seem to have been contested by other partners as they were taking podium, which was raised by organized labor in relation to the national minimum wage on the government led programs like the EPWP, the CWP, and those green brigades in the DFFE and other departments that run similar programs, which they talked to coordination by the department, but also that the issues of national minimum wage need to be looked at. So it will be also interesting to check whether that discussion is also taken forward and how the department comes in that regard, because I think since then we also are seeing in the different areas where there are protests around PWPs, CWPs, and so on, not just from the point of termination of contracts, but also from this point that has been raised in the summit about minimum wage. So that we also know what role the committee needs to play to ensure that that coordination takes place. But overall, the committee appreciates the work that's being done at that level, and the fact that you do have a clean audit, because that's also very important to balance performance and a clean audit, so that we don't leave an impression that every time there's high performance, expect irregularity. And if it's clean audit, there may also be no performance because we may be focusing administratively on receipts. So we really appreciate that and your commitment, ADG, that you'll be as a department attending to most of these matters that would have been raised by the committee members. So we're really looking forward that those would come. And I want to emphasize this point that sometimes these matters do not need to wait for another portfolio committee that will be called sometime, that focuses on a particular entity, but that to our office, we are able to receive some of these updates in writing so that we're able to share with members accordingly. So that concludes, honorable members, the two presentations, as we'll be getting to the committee side of work. And that committee side of work will be the minutes of the committee. I do not have intentions of keeping Nedlac, Productivity South Africa, and the department to a meeting where the committee considers it minutes. If you really are pressed to leave and execute some of the recommendations already made, you are free to do so. But if you decide to stay on the call, you are still also welcomed, as the committee is open to members of the public as part of public participation. But otherwise, you are free to be released, as we are now flighting the minutes of the committee, starting with the one of the 4th.
So, Chair, sorry, thank you very much. We will then take leave at this point in time so that we can then attend these issues as raised.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Committee support, please, flight. We now have got the minutes of the 4th of September 2024. It was a physical meeting, as you can see. We'll then do as we usually do, the page by page scroll. If you've got any matter to correct, you'll do that and indicate on which page.
Chairperson.
Yes,
I've got a proposal, Chair, in relation to these minutes of the previous meeting. And my proposal is as follows, Chair. We have received the minutes prior to this meeting, and we had time to read the minutes. I therefore propose that we don't go page by page, scrolling slowly, in the interest of time, because we had these minutes. If we have issues to raise on these issues on the minutes, then we can then do so. But of course, we'll be guided by you, Chair. I don't want to take your place. But my proposal is that in the interest of time, Chair, we please raise issues pertaining to the minutes than to go page by page. Thank you, Chair.
No, thank you, Honorable Maetso. We take note of what you are raising. Just remember that the meeting is still open to the public, so we'll still have to scroll. But of course, I do understand the pace because members have read the minutes. It also helps when you scroll that if you would have forgotten the page number, you are able to say on that page. That's where I have an issue to raise. But we've taken note of the pace. Can I then get from those that were present in the meeting? to move, and second, as we didn't get any proposals for correction. Can I get a move and seconder?
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Honorable
Honorable
Nontsele. I move for the adoption of the minutes as recorded.
Honorable Nontsele moves. I see the hand of Honorable Nkopane.
Thanks, Chair. I second Honorable Nontsele on the adoption.
So there's a mover and seconder. Can I just get to check if there's an objection in us approving minutes? No objection. Minutes are agreed to. We now move to the next set of minutes. We now present the minutes of the 11th of September 2024, which was also a physical meeting. Will then, at least will increase the pace. There was no objection to that. Okay. So those are the minutes of the 11th. Can I, from those who are present, get a mover and a seconder? The Honorable Maitso.
Thank you, Chair. I move for the adoption of the minutes.
Honorable Maitso moves. Can I get a seconder?
Honorable Nontsele.
Honorable Nontsele seconds.
Yes.
So the minutes have been moved and seconded. Any objection in us adopting the minutes as a true reflection? No objection, so the minutes are agreed to. We'll then move to the last set of minutes. And I'll present the minutes of the 18th of September 2024, which was also a physical meeting considering third quarterly performance reports. We now have the minutes. Can I get a mover and seconder? I say Honorable Maitso, your hands up.
Thank you, Chair. I move for the adoption of the minutes.
So there's a mover for adoption of the minutes, Honorable Maitso. Can I get a seconder?
Thank you, Chair. Honorable Nontsele seconds the motion for the adoption of the minutes by Honorable Mayet.
Honorable Nontsele seconds. Can I then check if there's any objection in us adopting the minutes now that they've been seconded? No objection. The minutes then are agreed to. May I just check committee support? The understanding would be that that would have been the last item, right?
Yes, Chair, that was the last set of minutes and the last item on the agenda. Thank you, Chair.
All right, thank you. Thank you, honorable members. Just to emphasize the point I raised earlier on, we would be working on the oversight report. But surely by the time, as it relates to the BRRR1, by the time we adopt the report, we'll also simultaneously adopt the Q3 report, which we have already processed. So we'll get all those behind us. And as I said, the intention is to also get the oversight report behind us before we get to the next oversight, that it will be in the system of Parliament. Having said that, the committee has almost concluded. I see, is it Honorable Bagram?
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you very much
your
for the
mic.
meeting.
Okay. because I saw your video going upside down the other time.
Yeah,
So
no, I
it
fell
is not.
over, but I'm fine.
Oh, okay, sorry. Okay, we get to that point that the meeting is now officially adjourned until we meet again, honorable members. Thank you.
Thank
Meeting
you.
adjourned.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. Bye-bye.
Yeah.